Hey folks, David Stewart here. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Let's talk a little bit about censorship and updating books to reflect modern sensitivities and values. This has been making some press lately, which is the rewriting or the changing of content of Agatha Christie novels and Roald Dahl books. I've heard they're also going to do this for Ian Fleming books, who wrote the James Bond books. They're changing things in them to better reflect modern sensitivities. And by modern sensitivities, I mean the sensitivities of sensitivity readers in the publishing industry in New York, not necessarily the values of just people in general. So why are they doing this? Well, I want to get to a little bit of deeper reasoning that I think a lot of people are missing. So the first reason is because they can and because they're vicious. If something is popular and it reflects values different from their own, they want to either bury that or change those, right? Preferably have it be buried so no one will read them. But this gets to point number two. These books continue to be popular year after year. Roald Dahl continues to sell lots of books. Agatha Christie is the best-selling novelist of all time. The truth is they're not bothering trying to rewrite theosophy books from 1905 or something, because nobody's buying those or reading those. So really old books, a lot of the books from the pulp era that people are rediscovering, no one's buying those off the shelf. They aren't moving a lot of copies, so there's no need to rewrite those and alter their content to reflect some sort of preferable modern view on race or stereotypes or sex or something else like that. It really has to do with the fact that the books are popular. And there's the deeper problem and why they're choosing to alter these. And that is that they can't sell new books. The reason that Roald Dahl and Agatha Christie and J.K. Rowling and J.R.R. Tolkien, the reason that these authors continue to be focused on so much by the hate mob is because they're popular, not because of any other real reason. They're very popular. And there's nothing to replace them. The modern publishing industry is not good at producing really large-scale, hyper-popular books anymore. That ability really went away with the invention of Amazon, where people were able to go find books they actually wanted to read and weren't settling for, oh, I guess there's a modern bestseller, and I guess I'll get it. So it's going to be pretty rare to see more Da Vinci Code type books in the future, and that's because our culture has been very splintered after cultural ground zero at the end of the 90s into many different little camps. It's just not possible for the publishing industry to put out a book and get everybody to read it. People just have too many other options for entertainment and for books. So because there's nothing popular, there's nothing to replace Roald Dahl. There's nothing that people are really interested in that makes Roald Dahl just be forgotten. Because his popularity continues and is very lindy, we need to alter those things because we can, and we want them to reflect our values. We don't really care about preserving the art of the books. That doesn't matter. What matters is that we're able to continue selling books. And this is another really important thing that a lot of people don't know about the publishing industry, is that the back catalog sales continue to be a bigger percentage, my understanding is bigger percentage of total revenue year after year. What that means is that it's old books that are making all the money, not the new books. But publishing companies will continue to pay out advances, which often don't recover, often don't break even, for new books that no one buys. Most books end up being destroyed. A lot of people don't know this about the publishing industry as well. In fact, I was talking to someone in the comments, the dust jacket is only for putting it on the shelf or something. Like, the dust jacket was an invention to make it cheaper to destroy books. Because if a bookstore can't sell a book, they just take the dust jacket off and send that back, and then shred the actual book, and then it's written off as a loss. So why does the modern publishing industry not want to focus on ebooks, which cost nothing to distribute? Well, it's because they can't write ebooks off at a loss. Whereas if you have a book and it doesn't do well, you destroy the books, you burn them or shred them, and then you write it off as a loss. So you have to keep that in mind. That's one of the reasons that the modern, quote, traditional publishing, 20th century publishing model is starting to have so many problems. They can't really generate these hits that make people forget about Roald Dahl. And then there's also the Lindy effect, that what's popular continues to be popular. So yeah, you want to alter it to better reflect your values. And maybe there's somehow an outside chance that a parent might not like some content from Roald Dahl. Now, there's more to this, though, even more, which is that this is actually nothing new. There's a tendency to think in our times that whatever we are experiencing is new and novel and hasn't been experienced before, is outrageous and strange, when the truth is there's nothing new under the sun. And I don't just mean in like some totalitarian country that burns books. I mean right here in the United States. So Hardwick Bentho, who I know on Twitter and who's often in the chat, pointed out to me that all of the Hardy Boys books, and I didn't know this, were rewritten in the 60s and 70s. And when I say rewritten, I mean rewritten. So I have an original copy of The Footprints Under the Window, which is like, I think the 11th Hardy Boys book that my dad found at a used bookstore. And the story that is in that is completely different from what was put out after the 1960s. So not only did they alter them for content, they rewrote the books from the ground up to, I guess, to be simpler for kids, make it easier for kids to read, but also just to change the content. And I'll read you a little bit of the synopsis from the original edition. Footprints Under the Window. When Frank and Joe try to take their laundry to the laundromat in order to clean up the house before Aunt Gertrude arrives, they learn that its owner has disappeared and has been replaced by a sinister Chinaman named Louis Fong. Later that day, the boys go down to the docks to meet their aunt, who mysteriously does not show up. While waiting, they meet a man who introduces himself as Sidney Pebbles, who gets locked into a telephone booth and out of pity is invited to spend the night at the Hardy home. The next morning, Mr. Pebbles has disappeared along with some papers from Fenton Hardy's coat pockets, leaving only a set of footprints below the window. There's some other stuff that goes on, but it's like, later the boys and Orrin North head to a Chinese restaurant named Lanternland, where Sidney Pebbles is working. To their surprise, Sidney Pebbles is working there with the same face, but it is not the same man. So they overhear Pebbles talking to Tom Watt, a Chinese man who was stabbed in the dock fight, but miraculously survived. The Chinamen are having knife fights on the docks and stuff. When you read the new one, Frank and Joe attempt to uncover a plot to smuggle refugees from Barredo in the Huelas, a fictional island nation off the coast of French Guiana, into the United States, and the involvement of local magnate Orrin North. They also get involved with investigating attempts to spy on top secret satellite camera being built at a local company named MicroEye. Someone has managed to infiltrate security at the plant and has taken photos of blueprints. Realizing that several clues point to the involvement of people from Barredo, Frank and Joe and their friend Chet Morton fly down to Cayenne, French Guiana, and then go by boat to Barredo in the nearby Huelas to investigate. So it's just a different book, right? They just put out a different book with the same title. They replaced the original Hardy Boys book with just a different book. And this happened back in like the 1960s. There really is nothing new under the sun. And what's also been pointed out to me is that I guess Charlie and the Chocolate Factory had some alterations in the 1970s, because the little Oompa Loompas were originally African pygmies. And so I guess they removed any references to the color of their skin from newer editions, so that it's not so obvious that he was imagining a bunch of little African pygmies wearing leaves for clothes. Anyway, so the stuff that's problematic, there's been a long history of erasing that stuff for the purposes of selling books. And that goes back to my original point, is that the point is, like, you can't turn off the corporate money machine. You can't create a new product that gets people excited and let the old product die. You have to keep milking that old product until it's completely dust and no one will buy anything attached to it ever again. That's the way the corporate IP cycle works. There's an invention, explosion, then you have the milking phase, which you want to milk it as long as possible, turn it into a money-making machine. Then there's death and rebirth. It dies. Maybe you bring it back when you reboot it, try to get nostalgia back involved to get more people interested in it. Star Trek has had this happen several times to them. Star Wars, everything has, all the corporate IP has this cycle. It happens in books as well. So you've had authors coming out and defending the publisher's decision to alter, say, Agatha Christie novels, because what made her writing clever was the plots and not her actual prose. I don't agree with that. But the point is that Agatha Christie continues to outsell all of these authors who are coming out in defense of censoring it. It's the publishers who want to censor it so they can hopefully keep milking the books as long as possible for an audience that may otherwise go, this isn't really appropriate. I don't think I feel offended reading this. They're in New York, so they assume that people have these kinds of feelings, when I don't necessarily think that's the case. But that's their prerogative. Joyce Carol Oates was, of course, making, getting pounded on Twitter because of her defense of this practice. Like, no, part of the craft of a writer is actually in the writing of the prose, not just in the plots. That's part of what made Agatha Christie popular. There are many mystery writers with mystery plots, but Agatha Christie was able to execute them exceptionally well, and the prose is part of that. So I don't agree with changing old books to suit modern sensibilities. And the fact is, this wouldn't even be an issue if the publishing companies were capable of producing work that people wanted to read right here and now. If people were thoroughly interested in new mysteries, they wouldn't be searching for Agatha Christie mysteries. The back catalog wouldn't be as important. But the way it is now, the back catalog is of utmost importance. What is going to happen in the future? That's the next thing. I think you better be prepared for any writer who's had a continued popularity or who has generated an IP that has had continued popularity, such as Ian Fleming's 007 James Bond. You can expect them to be censored in the future as well. And you can expect corporate participation in wiping anything off of the internet and making it really hard for people to buy older versions of these stories. Just look at what they did to Dr. Seuss. They unpublished things like I Saw It All on Mulberry Street, which I have a copy of, but you can't actually sell it like on eBay. You'll get your account banned. So all of the sites that you would normally use to communicate with other people and maybe sell, an interesting old copy of a book, that'll get you banned if you sell the banned Dr. Seuss books. They're banned in the real sense, not in the banned books because some elementary school library took porn out of its library. Not banned in that like the elementary school library didn't have the book anymore, but like banned in that you literally cannot buy and sell it in a practical sense. You have to like buy and sell it at a garage sale. Still legal, right? But the main avenue that people would use to buy and sell books, you can't buy and sell certain Dr. Seuss books. So you can consider that will continue, that if it's an older edition of the book, Amazon will ban you from printing it at the discretion of the publisher. The publisher just be like, you should not let people buy the older editions of the books. And it might be successful or might not be successful. But the bigger point is that if they can eliminate the listings for those older versions, then it's going to be quite a bit more difficult to sell the older versions of the books without like risking your account and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a bad thing that they're doing it, but they're doing it because they can't produce anything good that's new. So Tolkien will be the next one. They will edit Tolkien. You can expect that. You can expect that they will edit the Narnia books. So C.S. Lewis will, of course, get edited away. Maybe the kid won't be eating Turkish Delight. He'll be eating Jell-O or something, which seems kind of innocuous, but it really, it's not. It's taking away part of what the soul of what the book was, which is these very specific things that C.S. Lewis chose to put in there that had to do with that character at that time, living during World War II. He wouldn't have had Jell-O or something, but they put that in there. It's like Pokemon where they're eating rice. They're eating the little rice balls. It's like, these donuts are great. I love jelly donuts. It's like, no, I believe in leaving things the way they are, but I can expect stuff like that. At first it'll seem innocuous, but then it'll build up steam. They'll start changing character descriptions, eliminating mentions of race or hair color, things like that might offend somebody somewhere, as the sensitivity reader in New York imagines it. So anyway, keep those things in mind. If this is why you want to buy physical copies, hey, you can get a physical copy of my newest book, Demon Ex Machina. If you want a digital copy, you can get one for free by joining my mailing list, dbspress.com/free-book. That will give you a link, BookFunnel link. You can get a copy of this, whatever format you like. And then if you want to, you can buy the physical version, which I think is $5 on Amazon. So you can buy the physical version and buy physical versions of all my books. They sell pretty well. If you don't have a physical copy of your book, of a book that you really care about, you're probably making a mistake. I get that ebooks are very, very convenient, but if you really care about keeping a book, have a physical copy of it, because they can delete it off your device if they want to, or unlist it. Then if you reformat your phone, all of a sudden you don't have your book anymore. Get things like that. So anyway, let me know what you think down below in the comment section. I'll be reading those, and I'll see you all next time. Have a great one. Also, I will have an album coming out soon. It's called Return. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and I'll see you all next time.